The idea of locking in is honestly misleading and it's kind of harmful to some extent. Most people get the idea of locking in as a temporary phase where they're all the things they want to be. They're disciplined, they're patient, they're motivated, they're really everything they want to be for the time being. And this honestly just leads to burnout and not a sustainable way of changing yourself. And what you should really focus on is identity shift. And you should perceive identity shift compared to locking in as a more permanent solution to changing yourself and being the person you really want to be. For example, think about locking in as a more like a sprint, like a short term sprint. You're motivated, you're driven, you're not really disciplined, and you're just kind of running off that motivation, which isn't really going to take you that far. But if it does, then good for you. And personal identity shift is more like the best way that I can describe it as is like a thermostat. Picture you have a thermostat and your base temperature, say it's like 75, and say you're sitting at that 75 and you can't go really any higher or lower. With personal identity shift, you can either permanently raise that temperature, meaning be who you really want to be, embrace those characteristics, and then your base will be, say, like 78 or 79 or something compared to 75. Compared to locking in, when your base is 75, and say you have a lock in, your 75 will increase from that 79 or 78, and then you'll slowly bring it back to your base. So what identity shift is you're permanently raising that base. So I think the idea of locking in is kind of misleading for most people. Or, I mean, it's a good start and a good mindset shift, and I'm sure it probably helps to an extent, but only for so long. And what I want to bring to attention is what I've been talking about is the personal identity shift, and I think that's one of the most important parts to fully embodying who you really want to become. So, for example, you can there's a quote, live in live in the future. So, if you truly want to be successful and you truly want to do great things and do all these amazing things, you cannot be in your state right now. You ever notice how really successful people, they'll be like, oh, I can't even recognize myself from blah 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 5 years ago, last year, whatever. This is because their identity has shifted. They have permanently shifted their identity. They have raised that base temperature. And I believe that this is very necessary for embodying who you really want to be. And it's almost necessary to kill yourself. Don't want to say that, but it's kind of necessary to eliminate the characteristics that you do not need in order to be successful. So, for example, what I mean by living in the future is put yourself in the mindset that you in the future have already achieved everything you've ever wanted. Say you're rich, you're free, you have a family, you have all these amazing, beautiful things. It's like a dream life. Put yourself in those shoes, envision it. What does it feel like? And more specifically on the behavioral side, say for trading, what the main question that would help to ask is, what would my future self, so profitable, rich, and free, what would my future self do? And that is the biggest question that will help the most for not even trading, but whatever you want to do. So, pro basketball player, what would my future self, pro basketball player, do? Obviously, for trading, your future self would never revenge trade. Your future self would never hesitate. Your future self would never overtrade and do all these things. And that is the first step to I don't want to say first step, but it is a big shift in becoming who you really want to be. And I believe in eliminating these characteristics of yourself that you don't necessarily like or need in order to be successful is a very, very applicable way to embody who you need to be in order to be successful. There's actually a book that is all about this. It's called Reality Transurfing. There's a lot of good things in there. It's actually on my why is that nightstand? It's on that nightstand over there, and it's been really interesting. If you're interested in like theoretical stuff and like theoretical quantum physics and all this stuff, kind of pretty interesting. But it talks about that. It just talks about shifting your identity, shifting into the person who you need to be, who you want to be, and who you're going to become if you embody these things. And the idea of locking in, it's good up to an extent, but it's just going to lead to burnout, and it's going to lead to disappointment, and you're going to think you were locked in, but your identity never shifted, your base never shifted up. And if you really want to change, if you really want to become, if you really don't want to recognize yourself, you don't like where you're at, you don't like how you're behaving, you don't like some characteristics, I just ask yourself, what would my future self do? What would that person who has everything do? How would they act? How would they dress? How would they carry themselves? How would they speak? How would they articulate themselves? How would they think? How would their thought process be? How would they look at things? How would they do everything? How would they brush their teeth? Take it to that minute detail. Really be the person that you believe that your future self will and can be. Because fake it till you make it. Like, I'm not saying there's all these, don't be like a LARPer. Like, don't be a one of them, but I'm saying just change yourself. Change yourself for the better. Change your identity, raise your base temperature, and your identity will shift because your subconscious has no option. It does not filter. It does not filter information. It sees all the information and it takes it as is. So how do you think your subconscious in your reality is going to reflect you seeing you do all these amazing things, all these identity shifts, all these, you're disciplined, you're patient, you're thinking like someone who's already rich and free, you're acting like someone, you're buying things like someone who's already rich and free, you're carrying yourself, you're thinking, what car am I gonna buy? What house am I gonna buy? What party am I gonna go to? Take it to that level of extreme, and your body has no choice but to accept that fact, because your subconscious will eventually be programmed, and it has no choice but to change your reality. And this is even like woo woo, all that stuff, but you can believe it, you can't, or not, but your subconscious is always active, and the subconscious is programmable, and your body will react, and your reality will change if you act like the person who you want to become and you live in the future. That is the biggest thing of this talk, I guess, is live in the future, act like you have already done it, and it's just inevitable. Obviously, if you don't give up too, it's double inevitable, I guess. But yeah, instead of locking in, shift your identity, shift your base to be higher instead of just temporary locking in. Change all your behaviors, change your thought process, change the way you think about money. Just change yourself and think about what your future self would do. And reality has no choice but to accept the fact that you are new. And yeah, that was pretty much the idea. But yeah, hopefully anyone can implement that and see, and then maybe do a little bit of their research and see about that topic. But yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.